Welcome back to the best pod available. DeLeone and Ryan Roberts here to give you our post-combine mock draft. We're not going to overreact, but we are going to pick a lot of guys that were big risers from the weekend that could go earlier than everybody was expecting, especially based on information that has come out on certain prospects that are trending towards getting picked higher. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't done so already so you don't miss out on all of our upcoming videos. Ryan, I'm just going to start us off here, get this out of the way. Fernando Mendoza didn't do anything at the Combine, doesn't change anything. Nobody's surprised. Let everybody do their weird conjecture on how good he is or not, and if he's worthy of the pick, he's still going to be the first overall pick no matter what happens. On to you for the Jets.
Yeah, I was going to say we can put that one in pen at this point. We've been able to do that for the last couple months. New York Jets, we're going to go with David Bailey, pass rusher out of Texas Tech. 3-4 alignments from the base perspective. I do think that they are going to be fine with having maybe a little bit more lightly built pass rusher on the other side of Will McDonald. Obviously, they just traded away Jermaine Johnson as well. And they got Sweat in the deal from the Tennessee Titans to kind of play that nose role as well. So I think David Bailey, outside pass rusher to pair with Will McDonald, makes some sense.
Yeah, Bailey seems to be on the radar for the Jets a lot more than maybe people were considering before the Combine, so that is a fantastic selection. I guess here, and I know that Cardinals fans hate the concept of taking Arvell Reese because he fits the mold of player that has burned them previously, but I think if Arvell Reese is on the board, you can't pass up on him. His testing was phenomenal. It was unbelievable. He really showcased that he is a one-of-one athlete in this year's draft. So why pass on him just because guys that are completely different players that didn't have an ounce of the instincts that Arvell has, why let that impact your future success? That's how bad teams draft, and I think the Cardinals fans should be excited about the chance to get a guy like Reese.
They have need at stacked linebacker, and they have need on the edge. So you pick a guy that could potentially give you juice in both spots. I think makes a lot of sense. And if he's not there, if he doesn't go at number 2, I think that he would make a lot of sense for the Cardinals. Even if Cardinal fans are going to get their torches out and not be too happy about it. Tennessee Titans, Joe. You don't want to overreact from the Combine, but I'm overreacting, man. Well, I'm overreacting. Jeremiyah Love, running back from Notre Dame. Let's do it.
Let's go.
I'm doing it. Hey, man, you want to surround Cam Ward, quarterback, with playmakers. I feel like when we say that, we mostly just think of the wide receiver position, but having a running back this athletically gifted to hopefully pull more people into the box defensively and make some easy throws for Cam Ward, let the play action game work off of it, let Jeremiyah Love get involved in the passing game himself, I think that he could unlock the Tennessee Titans offense, which his offensive line, they need to find a center with Lloyd Cushenberry out, but I do think that the offensive line is actually a pretty solid one in terms of NFL standards, probably like a mid-tier one. So I think Jeremiyah Love could come in and have an instant impact.
I've been pushing this agenda, so I am more than happy with this. We continue the lineage of elite running backs at Tennessee, and it continues with an unbelievable player. Couldn't be more excited for the thought of Love in Tennessee. I just recorded a video on this for the Giants. Sonny Styles has cemented himself as a top 10 pick. I wonder now, has he pushed himself into the top 5 discussion and locked himself in there? At the end of the day, John Harbaugh has spoken on how they need to improve their run defense. What better way to do that than getting one of the most rare linebacker athletes to ever come out? Not to mention the fact this is not just a guy that you're drafting because he's a great athlete. His instincts are really good. He's played a lot of football. He has stuck around, and he could have declared maybe last year, but he stuck around, and you saw the difference in the growth of that one final season translate to the way that he was able to make plays. He's like a pterodactyl, man. I don't want to hear any comps for him. He's a pterodactyl playing linebacker for the amount of range that he can cover with his long arms and his speed. So Sonny Styles, especially if Bobby Okereke ends up being a salary cap cut, would be perfect for New York.
Allegedly, the Calvin Johnson of defensive football, Sonny Styles, which is it's just a funny comp, seeing that on the broadcast. The close comp is to Calvin Johnson. Cleveland Browns, this one's going to surprise some folks, Joe. Let's do it. This is a little bit more predictive. I am taking Monroe Freeling, the offensive tackle out of Georgia. I know they just traded for Titus Howard today, right, to play right tackle, potentially guard. Like he kind of has some swing opportunity potential, but they don't have a left tackle on this roster that you feel good about right now. You know, like you tried to do DeJuan Jones at left tackle last year. He's coming back from the injury. He wasn't very good even before the injury. So I'm going to go with Monroe Freeling, who I think, and some other professionals in the industry have kind of verified it as well, there is a real track to being the first offensive tackle off the board. So let's go with Monroe Freeling, 6'7", 315 pounds, long arms, athletic. He has all the tools in the toolbox. Joseph.
I'm going to need to ask you to stop saying
I
that.
just listed his height. I did not go like this. I didn't do this. I just said he was 6'7", which he is. He is 6'7".
Washington Commanders are in a position where they need just any defensive position. They need to get better, except for defensive tackle. One could argue Ruben Bain here. I don't know if he fits based on the current defensive line unit that they have. If Caleb Downs is here and you're picking between Downs and Bain, one, you're in a pretty good position. It's a pretty solid position to be in, but I like the idea of Caleb Downs improving the back end of that defense that has solid pieces, but needs a middle linebacker to a degree of the secondary who's got awesome instincts, is a good tackler. To me, I know that you don't totally agree with the projection that I have for Downs. I think he's the type of guy that can solve multiple problems. So when you are a defense with a lot of issues and a lot of holes, take a multi-use guy who's instinctual and also a really good tackler.
Yeah, I mean, I think number 7 overall is just like a little touch high for Downs' like role, in my opinion. But in this class, Joe, I'm not going to argue against it too much. It's not a great class at the top. So take good football players is what we always talk about. Caleb Downs is undoubtedly a good football player. So we're there. Saints, I'm going to take Ruben Bain Jr. here. Obviously, Cam Jordan on his last leg. They need to kind of upgrade the edge spot, but Bain's also a player that could reduce down and give you some pass rush juice from the inside. I do think there is some hesitation on him around the league, but I do think that there are some teams that will just say, I'm going to trust the tape, even if he's a historical outlier. Saints take him at number 8 to hopefully bolster their defensive line moving forward.
Man, Maui Noah is still on the board, which is kind of interesting. But, actually, you know what? Juwan Taylor getting moved on from the timing of this is actually perfect. I don't think that Maui Noah was originally fully on the radar. I'm debating going with Kenyon Sadiq, but I think that the concept that Taylor is now out of the mix and you already have Simmons at left tackle, I mean, Maui Noah boosts your O-line. And last year, the offensive line was a bit underwhelming. I think that the other primary concept here for this top pick is drafting a big-time weapon, because the weapons for Patrick Mahomes underperformed significantly last year and did not do enough to help and elevate him. But having better protection is going to be the biggest stride for Mahomes playing better and the team getting back to the playoffs in 2026.
Yeah, this is probably the worst-case scenario, and I think the Maui Noah fit makes sense. I think that you could also argue that maybe that's a spot for whoever wide receiver 1 is that you deem in this class, but I think that Maui Noah, I mean, you need to protect Patrick Mahomes at all costs. You obviously have Josh Simmons, who I think played well last year when he played, but like that situation is just kind of weird. But Maui Noah, I think, can potentially, if he doesn't become a plus starter at right tackle, I think that he at least strengthens your offensive line just in general with the flexibility. So I get that one. This one is like the worst case scenario for the Bengals. Like, I think the Bengals are just hoping and praying that Caleb Downs kind of falls to them at number 10, and you're just like, okay, keep the Ohio State kid in the Buckeye State. But I am going to go with Mansour DeLeone, the cornerback out of LSU, because I think he ultimately strengthens a couple different alignments here for you. He's played outside corner, obviously, at LSU and previously Virginia Tech, but he's also played a lot of slot as well. So I think that he is a guy that upgrades your secondary in general, and I think that he would be a very interesting fit on the back end for a Bengals defense that needs upgrading almost everywhere.
I guess, first of all, I think that the Dolphins are a team that 1,000,000% needs to take a corner.
Or wide receiver.
Actually, you know what?
Or wide receiver.
No, we're going to do something toxic. We're going to go Tyson.
Joe, why are you being toxic? This is crazy.
This isn't toxic. Wait, hold on.
You just said no. Time out. You literally just said I'm going to do something toxic. You said you were doing something toxic.
Yeah, and I don't care. Seriously, we said this on the show. Anyone can gripe at this. I don't care. We said on the show coming into the combine, the guy who could do the most for himself to lock him into the top 15 picks was Ty Simpson. If he accomplished everything that he needed to do, which was show up with a good weight, show up and throw as best as he could, which he did. He wasn't perfect, but he looked really, really clean, and also do well in the interviews. And you're already starting to hear that he was a great interviewee. He was interviewed and did everything that he needed to
Coach's
in order to solidify his
grinder.
Stock.
First man in.
Shut up.
I know. I got you, man. I got you. Yep.
Look, the Dolphins are in an effective position where Hafley comes in. You get the chance to pair a new coach with a new quarterback. To me, that is the best approach and premise to have, to start from scratch and to not bring a quarterback in after maybe a bad first year. And then there is an increased sense of urgency is not even a good word. There's like this increased sense of pressure. I hate seeing these quarterbacks come in with a team that is already panicked about trying to become successful. So Simpson, year one under Hafley. I think that the Dolphins obviously are moving on from Tua. It's been reported multiple times over now. Get young, get cheap. It's almost to a degree like the Bo Nix pick for the Broncos when they were starting young and fresh after moving on from Russell Wilson.
Man, that Ty Simpson, Malik Willis quarterback competition is going to hit this offseason, man. It's going to hit.
It. That's not going to happen.
It's going to slap. Cornerback here. I'm going to give the Dallas Cowboys Jermod McCoy. I still think that the NFL is just generally speaking going to be very high on Jermod McCoy, but some of the injury question mark that we're dealing with here with the ACL from this past spring is real. But I think as long as he goes to the pro day and he showcases how talented he is, I think that some teams will just kind of forget about the lost time here. So Jermod McCoy, Dallas Cowboys, to short for secondary across from Deron Bland.
Okay, so now, Carnell Tate is on the board still, and
Carnell
the Rams need another receiver. So if the fact that he's still on the board, that's a no-brainer.
Joe, could you imagine Devontae Adams on one side, Carnell Tate in the other, and then you move Puka more into the slot as like an interchangeable piece?
It's nuts.
It's nuts, yeah. It's nuts.
The range and the size, too, because Puka's not gigantic, but he's on the bigger side for a slot receiver. So you've got a lot of like really big frames that you can target. This is the type of pick, as we've discussed, for the Rams. They're gearing up to go on one more final run towards the Super Bowl with Stafford. Maybe they've got another 2 years for them to take that approach and to try and be all in on winning. If Simpson's not on the board, you're not going to take a quarterback in the first round. So Carnell Tate is the obvious choice here if he's still there.
So number 14, our second offensive lineman is going to come off the board here. I was thinking about Spencer Fano, but you know what I'm going to do here, Joe, is I'm going to go with Vega Ioane, the offensive guard out of Penn State, because I don't know if you talked about this at the Combine. He was one of the other players that was asked to snap a lot in Indy as well. They're losing Tyler Linderbaum to free agency, most likely. I don't envision him back in Baltimore. And they have a pressing need at offensive guard as well, because Daniel Falele has not been very good, and Andrew Voorhees is the other starting offensive guard. So you need to upgrade the interior in general. Ioane, even though he's a guard that doesn't get valued that high, I think he is one of the safer prospects in this class. So Vegas shores up the interior for the Baltimore Ravens.
Kenyon Sadiq lit the world on fire with his testing performance. This is also by no regards some sort of crazy swing. He has been in this projection range. I think that there's been a lot of false narratives about Kenyon Sadiq. While the tight end room for the Bucs is solid, and maybe this... No, I'm not going to twist myself into a pretzel here.
Do it.
You want to have Baker play at a higher level, and the way that you're going to accomplish that is by getting him another rare athlete. Kenyon Sadiq plugs in and could be a very, very productive rookie.
As of today, I think Tampa Bay is going to slightly reach most likely on an edge defender, but I understand the want for Kenyon Sadiq, and Obviously, the tight end position is one that could absolutely get upgraded from a pure F, a guy that can move around and do a lot of different things. So I think it makes sense. Not certain that will be where they go, but I do think it would potentially make sense. The Jets, and we took David Bailey, number 2 overall, so we did something on the defensive side of football. I'm going to give him Jordyn Tyson here, Joe. I'm going to go Jordyn Tyson at wide receiver to bolster the other side of Garrett Wilson, and we don't know who the quarterback will be on the short term, but we know on the long term, Garrett Wilson and Jordyn Tyson, whose medicals came back quote-unquote clean this past week at Indianapolis, if he's able to stay healthy, that is a hell of a wide receiver duo for whoever the quarterback for the Jets will be long term.
Yeah, I think that is kind of been established now, especially with, I don't know how much of mine the Mekhi Lemon news. I'm not sure if that's just maybe some sort of post because he was a little weird, and then some of these teams really like him and they're trying to create some false narratives to hope that he falls. We did even hear Brandon Beane make a joke about the concept of a prospect falling when he was on the broadcast. So, whatever happens in that regard. The Lions in this spot, I'm trying to think of. I don't think he was a faller, by the way. I just wasn't really impressed with Keldrick Falk in the way that he moved during the drills.
I thought he moved fine, man. I kept seeing people say that he was like tight. I was like, I don't think I'm seeing the same ankle flexion that some people are seeing. I thought he moved really well for 278 pounds, whatever he was. I don't know, whatever.
We reported that Howell and R. Mason Thomas are going to go earlier than a lot of people have anticipated, but the Lions, I don't think that either of those guys are really 4-3 defensive ends, so I don't know if they really fit. So let's go with Keldrick Falk. Sure. This is the right situation for Falk, and I think we've done this one already because he didn't have a productive college career. He has some growth to happen, and I personally think that if he does play true edge and he plays as a 4-3 defensive end, he is going to be more successful as a secondary rusher and is probably going to be more in that 8-sack range in his career. Greg Rousseau is a good example of a guy who he physically compares to and also a path to success for what we could see. Him being opposite of Hutchinson, we don't need him to be the premier pass rusher. We just need him to be good enough to cause some problems and to win one-on-one every so often. And I also think that he's got the frame to be a really good run defender, which is usually part of the philosophy for what you're looking for in your secondary rusher.
I have no... I still like Keldrick Falk. I still think there's some juice to squeeze out of him. I understand why it is troubling the production he had in 2025, but I also do think there's some context to consider there. So at 17, I think it's worth taking the swing. Minnesota Vikings. I love Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, but I'm going to go with Dylan Thieneman, the safety out of Oregon. I understand it is super cliche to change one white safety for the other with Harrison Smith most likely retiring, Joe, but I really do think that Dylan Thieneman has continued to rise in this process. And you know what's funny is they'll kind of be compared him and Harrison Smith, but I think he's a very different player than Harrison Smith. So he's going to bring a little bit of a different, unique sense at safety, maybe a little bit more downfield range than what Harrison Smith brought to the table. So Dylan Thieneman to help shore up the back end for the Minnesota Vikings. Also really weird to say shore up the back end. Sounds dirty. I don't like that, but yeah.
Okay, all right, man. Get a grip.
Get a
grip. Holy hell, man. I'm over here trying to think through my Panthers pick, and you're just over here saying crazy stuff over there.
Talking about butts.
Talking
about butts. Yeah, talking about butts. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I don't know how, to be honest, one guy that I was hoping to find out more on how he's maybe perceived that I feel I still don't know is CJ Allen. The Panthers, to me, as they've been projected to take an edge, I don't love the thought of them taking one of the edges that's on the board at the current moment because they drafted Scourton, who theoretically should become eventually a full-time starter. Princely Omamielon is a DPR with the upside to become a full-time starter. You already made those picks last year. Why am I making one more pick rather of a similar type of a guy just because your edge room needs to be better? They were developmental upside guys. If you still want to get another pass rusher, I say you do it on day 2, or it's a position that you try to address in free agency with one of these mid-level to high-end guys and spend some money. So I'm going to go with CJ Allen here. I think that their linebacker room is quite underwhelming. I know that Christian Roseboom has carved out a role. Trevin Wallace is fine, but I would much rather have... I want that anchor. That's what I feel like the Panthers defense is missing. They don't have that anchor, the guy that is just going to command everything in the middle. So let's go CJ out.
Okay. Dallas Cowboys is very, very interesting because I wanted to just go with Emmanuel McNeil-Warren because I think that it is a very interesting fit. But Joe, I'm going to go a little bit off the wall here a little bit, okay? I admittedly do not love this fit, but we are starting to get in the part of the offseason where we're injecting more and more predictive into these mock drafts, right? So I'm going to give the Dallas Cowboys Ahkeem Mesidor, edge out of Miami, who was on the screen already, by the way. He's on the screen. He's 25. I think that there's going to be a range of outcomes for Ahkeem Mesidor. I think he could go top 20, or I think he could go somewhere on day 2. But I do think that the NFL, as long as the medicals check out, because he's got some durability stuff in the past, he's a little bit of an older prospect. If those check out, I think Ahkeem Mesidor is going to go higher than he probably should in this class. So I will give the Dallas Cowboys Ahkeem Mesidor, pass rusher, Miami. He's older than you, isn't he? Isn't Mesidor older than you?
No,
Mesidor
he's my age. He's no. He's 25.
He's 25.
25. He's not older than me.
Joking.
I know you're just doing a bad bit.
Yeah.
Omar Cooper Jr. has been a rising mover through this. But wait, hold on. I think that there is a little bit of a trend here that Cooper has been moving up, and his name keeps getting brought up more and more as a player who is going to get picked higher than everybody had anticipated. So I'm going to go with Omar Cooper Jr. here. Casey Concepcion's been projected in that spot. He was solid. He was good at the combine. But I think that Omar Cooper Jr. right now has a lot of momentum.
Man, if Omar Cooper Jr. goes before Mekhi Lemon, it is it's not great. It's not great. Not even talking about you. I'm talking about if the NFL chooses to do that. I think it's a really bad process. Chargers, I'm going to take Spencer Fano here, the offensive lineman out of Utah. Joe, we saw last year, both offensive tackles got hurt throughout the year with Rashawn Slater before the year, and then Joe Alt got hurt during the season as well. So some security at offensive tackle might be interesting. But they also said goodbye to Bradley Bozeman at center, and I think that Spencer Fano has an interesting upside as a center, and I think that they also have a need at guard. So this is a guy that is legitimately one of these 4-position offensive linemen that can fit anywhere you need him to be. Keep Justin Herbert protected. Spencer Fano, Los Angeles Chargers.
All right, now this is literally the most Eagles pick possible, that Mekhi Lemon is still on the board. Everybody's panicked. They're showing him in the green room, and they're like, oh, my God, all the rumors were true. He did so poorly. And then eventually we find out it was a planted seed by Howie Roseman in order to set himself up to land Mekhi Lemon. The mastermind does it again. God, could you imagine dropping him into the slot? It presumed that they would move on from A.J. Brown, and you do have Devonta Smith, who's just an awesome player already. The transition from Brown to Lemon, very different players, of course, but to plug in a guy who could probably be the most productive receiver as a rookie because it's the best situation, that would be nuts.
Good football players good football teams let good football players fall into the lap and don't overthink it. And that is the ultimate Eagles pick. I believe I gave Monroe Freeling to the Cleveland Browns with the first pick.
Correct.
So, right? Okay, so we're going to go, man, they don't really have a crazy amount of needs on defense, actually.
I'd imagine this would probably be a receiver.
Or edge, wide receiver or edge to go along with Myles Garrett, potentially. All right. Yeah, we'll go wide receiver. I'm going to go Casey Concepcion from Cleveland, who I believe is going to be a player that some teams maybe even try to mortgage some capital to come back into the back end of the first round to get. I kind of reported that during the week or during the combine week, that I think that he will be a guy of high demand. So Casey Concepcion for the Cleveland Browns.
God, I always come into this pick with the Bears being generally...
Caleb Banks doesn't get dude, both defensive tackles are on the board there. That's crazy.
Oh, my God. How did Caleb Banks make it this far? Talk about the guy that should have been picked way sooner because of this big board that we didn't even clock him. I mean, that's a no-brainer if he's still there at 25, which is possible. I would like to find out. We should probably see if we can dig into... if Banks' medicals, if there were any issues with that. Nothing has come out yet, but holy crap, the guy lit the combine on fire, so no-brainer.
Yes. Man, you had all the defensive tackles on the board. That's the furthest I think I've seen defensive tackle as a position fall in this class, which is kind of funny to look at. I am going to go, I think Cole Bishop showed some signs for the Bills last year at safety, right? But I'm still going to go Emmanuel McNeil-Warren to the Buffalo Bills here.
You hate Cole Bishop.
I'm not a big Cole Bishop fan. I'm pretty sure Cole Bishop was just like fine this year. I don't think he was actually good for the Bills. So I'm going to go Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, 6'3", 200+ pound, physical downhill dude who has more range than you would expect as well. Mainstay in the secondary for the Buffalo Bills. I'm going to say back end again, so I'm not going to say back end anymore in this podcast.
God, what do we do?
Can I make a suggestion? Okay,
what's your positional suggestion here?
I think one, you could go wide receiver. I think two.
That was where my head was at.
Right. I think there's also some credence to offensive tackle for the heir apparent aspect of life after Trent Williams, because he's like 39 now. So like a Caleb Lomu, if you like Caden Parker as offensive
let's
tackle.
go. I'm going to do that. Let's go Caleb Lomu. I thought he was pretty solid. He tested pretty well. He is one of the few pure left tackles, and it does sound like, unless they come to terms on some sort of a contract agreement or restructuring rather for him, because he's owed a lot of money, that they're probably going to be parting ways. So let's go with Lomo. Let's go with the cheap option.
Yep, I think that makes a lot of sense there as the next. Well, dude, you know what's weird is that the Houston Texans have put themselves in a position where they need to draft an offensive lineman again, because I don't even think Tytus Howard was very good, but it's like he was still one of your better starting offensive linemen last year, which is so funny. I'm going to go with, do I want to go with Blake Miller or Max Iheanacho? Like that's the question there, right? I'm going to go with Blake Miller. I personally just prefer Miller a little bit, that explosiveness, that length. I know Iheanacho has some of that as well, but I do think that Blake Miller, the ascension I saw this year, was very positive steps. So I'm going to go with Blake Miller to the Houston Texans.
Steak.
That's fine.
Steak. The Rams, second time around here, they need a corner after they addressed wide receiver. So let's see what corners we still have on the board.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to go with Colton Hood because I think he's the more pure outside corner. I think it's a tiny bit unclear if Terrell is going to be playing more in the slot. I think he probably is going to play more in the slot, so let's go with Colton Hood.
Wow. There's a possibility that we might not have Avian Terrell in the first round. I haven't seen that recently, I don't think. That's interesting. Denver Broncos. One of the hardest teams to mock for, man. Damn it. They're
Eli Stowers.
I'm not doing it. I'm not going Eli Stowers in the first round. I'm not doing it. That would be such a just clicky. Like I don't like that. Let me think. Wide receivers possibility. Cortland Sutton's getting up there in age. They could use another wide receiver just in general. I think interior defensive line. Actually, interior defensive line is a very sneaky. Oh, you know what I'm going to do? Oh, here we go. John Franklin Myers is hitting free agency this offseason. I think that you can invest in the interior defensive line. I'm going to go Peter Woods to the Denver Broncos, because John Franklin Myers is more of like a movement-based player, and Peter Woods has spent some time on the edge at Clemson. He spent some time at 3 technique. I think that movement is interesting for the Denver Broncos.
I get to make my favorite pick. I get to make my favorite pick that I wanted to make in this mock draft, in any of these mock drafts that I haven't had the chance to. The Patriots have the opportunity to do the funniest thing possible by drafting the guy whose last name is Boston to play for the New England Patriots. Do you understand? Denzel Boston could have 0 catches in his career. Do you know how platinum those jerseys are going to go? Boston Patriots jersey? Are you kidding me?
You're an idiot.
I don't care if they...
This is crazy.
Shut up. Shut
That's
up.
crazy, man.
Shut up. Don't take this away from me. Do not take this away from me. This is the best bit. The Patriots better do it. They're talking about how Stephon Diggs could be out and could be done. Give me Denzel Boston, damn it.
That's crazy. That's just a crazy.
He's a good player too. It's not like I'm doing some BS. Don't play with me, Ryan. Don't play with me.
My gosh. Oh my gosh. I don't even know what to say after that one, Joe. I don't even know what to say. God, that's just that's just such a stupid reason to draft someone.
He's a good. Okay. Obviously, Ryan. Obviously, he is a great possession receiver. He's got a big frame, and a lot of the ways that Stephon Diggs was used, it's just easily translatable for him to be successful. So that's the real analysis. But I think Patriots fans can agree with me that it needs to be the pick.
Sure, man. I believe, unless I have this wrong, that Tariq Woolen's a free agent, right? I think I have that right.
Yeah, he's expected to be. Yeah.
Okay, so he's a free agent. You potentially need some help at outside corner. I understand what you were saying before of like their question marks of Avion Terrell to play outside or in. I do think, despite him being a smaller guy, that he can play outside. And I think that Devin Witherspoon also offers you upside because even though he has found his niche in the slot, he's also a guy that can mix and match and play low outside as well. So Avion Terrell to the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks.
That's it for our mock draft, folks. Hit that like button and subscribe. We will be back on Wednesday. We'll talk to you later.